Welcome to Bailey Buck Unplugged, a sports, entertainment, and mental health podcast in support of the Kennedy Kids Foundation. You've joined one of our quick cast episodes where we include the best moments of one of our popular episodes. We invite you to like, subscribe on YouTube, download, review, everything that you can do to share and help us promote our messages of mental health will go a long way in helping other people and helping us support mental health in support of the Kennedy Kids Foundation at kennedykids.org. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to another episode of Bailey and Buck Unplugged. Today's guest is the legend himself, Michael Irvin. So let's be honest, he really does not need an introduction, but on the off chance that anybody needs a reminder, we're talking about Pro Football Hall of Famer Michael Irvin, a 3-time Super Bowl national champion, a 5-time Pro Bowler, University of Miami national champion, member of the NFL's all-decade team of the 1990s, and obviously one of the greatest wide receivers to ever play the game. Off the field, you've seen him on major stages like Dancing with the Stars, and now hosting his own Netflix podcast, The White House. They do not call him the Playmaker for nothing, y'all. We are so excited to have him with us today. Bailey and Buck, Unplugged Nation, make some noise for Michael, the Playmaker Irvin. Welcome to the show.
Mike, you did a great job with that, huh, Mike?
Yeah, I like that intro. You know, everybody needs to sit down and have an intro like that every now and then, just to remind themselves why they keep fighting every day, why you continue to fight. It's like you need to be, that need to be someone's like, you know, your alarm clock. Hey, it is 6:30 in the morning. It's time to get up. You run into that, you know, because that's how you should start the day. Hearing great things about yourself. You know what I mean? Prepare yourself to go win that victory that day. So thank you for that.
Can't forget who you are, my friend. Gotta remind yourself.
She's really good, Mike. She does that for all of our guests, and every time we get that kind of reaction because she puts her all into it. It reminds me of the championship boxing matches when the guy does the intro.
Let's get ready to rumble. Right.
I put her right there. She does an amazing job, and we're thankful to have her. But we really are thankful to have you on the show, Mike. We got a lot to talk about. One thing I do want to say is, Mike, you may not know this, but I remember when I came out of high school and I went to University of Miami. I wasn't a big college fan, so going to University of Miami, I didn't know many of the players on the team, right? Because I didn't really watch college football. I just played football, and the reason I stayed in Miami was just to be close to home, be close to mom, you know what I mean? Be close to everything that was going on in my life at that time. But I remember as a freshman, many freshmen don't play at University of Miami with Jimmy Johnson. But I remember in one meeting, the coach told me to stand up. It was training camp. He told me to stand up, and he told the entire team that I was not going to be redshirted. Robert, stand up. Robert Bailey. I stood up. This young man is not going to be redshirted, right? He does this thing to do his motivation. And 2 things came out of that, right? I found out 2 things about my teammates. I found out who the bullies were going to be, because those were the guys that were jealous that happened to me, right? And then I found out who my support system was going to be. And you were one of the support systems. You really made me feel like I had someone I can go to. It was you, Highsmith. Benny was also a big support system for me, a person for me. But I want to tell you, man, I take this opportunity and thank you for being someone at a time where you're coming into a big program. There's a little bit of fear now, you're a little scared. You don't want to step on the wrong toes. And immediately after that moment, you let me feel like I was welcomed, and I felt like I was a part of the team at that moment. I just want to take this time to tell you thank you,
Robert, and I appreciate you bringing it up. And for a lot of guys, I try to share with young men now that are in the game, like the truth of it is, Why we love football so much, why people tune in to listen to you guys, bring on guys to talk about it, is because it's the greatest game in the world. Because there's no such thing as isolated success in football. In basketball, we see it. LeBron James, we're going to watch it today. LeBron take that ball off one rim and dunk it on the other. Ain't nobody did anything but LeBron. That's success all by himself. In baseball, you slap that home run in the ninth. That's success all by yourself. In golf, you drop that putt. That's success all by yourself. That's non-existent in football. So I've always known, and Jimmy always taught us this, you're going to need the youngest guys on this roster. We're going to need the fifth or third guy on the roster because there's 53 men in the NFL, right? We're going to need them all. So the first thing you got to do is break ice with those freshman dudes that's coming in. I did this all my career, not just in Miami, but in Dallas too. Because when I got here, I was looking at Herschel Walker and I'm like, oh my God, that's, nobody ever broke ice. So I went into the season like, man, I'm playing with these guys. I don't know, you're not quite a football family. You're just on the same team. You know what I mean? And dude, we're going to get in pressure situations early. If I come yelling at you in the fourth quarter of a game and I haven't said anything to you all off season, you're going to say, get the hell out of my face. I'm just a freshman. Get out of my face. What are you talking about? But if I break ice, every time I saw you leave, hey, Robert, where you going? Practice ain't over. It's over for them. Get back out here. We're going to get some work in right now. Come on here. Let's go. You're going to get baptized out here, right? I called you every day when you trying to walk in with, hey, ain't nobody said practice over for you. Bring your butt back out here. And we went to work. Now, when I come in the fourth quarter and I say, Rob, let's go. You'll take it from a different place because we put the time in before that pressure moment came. And if you don't break that ice, then that's going to be a tough day. And it's that fourth quarter coming. I'm going to have to come to you and say, let's damn go. It's coming. You know what I mean? So you got to do that. I appreciate you bringing that back up, man, and telling me how that affected you.
100%. I remember those days. Misty, he used to call me out like, when you walking off the field, practice over, hey, let's go get some, where you going?
Practice over for them, not for us. Let's get back out here. Let's go.
Mike, you always had the fire in you, man. I don't know, football really, you and football, right? Y'all were like, you were born for football, right? And one question, everybody knows about you as a pro. Everybody knows about you in college. I never really heard you talk about growing up. When did football come into your life, and how did it come into your life, and what kind of effect did it have on you mentally? Can you take us back to your younger days and tell us, when did that all start for you?
Robert, that's a great question. And the passion. Now, I've always said, if I didn't have football, I would be dead or in prison. No doubt in my mind. I'm a football player, and I love and give everything to the game. To this day, still, it's everything to me. What it means, what it is. For me, you got to think about it. I was born 1966. I'm 60 years old. 60 years old. I went. So you start looking at 66. Martin Luther got killed, 68? Something like 68. So now we're fighting civil rights up in here. We're fighting civil rights. So they started segregating schools probably when I'm 6, 7 years old. So I'm now getting bused. My first time going to school, I'm getting bused long ways from the ghetto to this Mirror Lakes elementary school. Rob, I tell you, and I don't talk about it much, but I'll never forget going to that school, getting on that bus, riding over there, going to that school. And the first day at the school, going to class, and the teacher's asking, how many kids here know what color this is? She's holding up cards. Every kid raised their hand, except me. Then she asked, how many kids know how to spell their name? every kid raised their hand except me. Now, I was the only black kid in the class. Oh my
Wow.
God. I thought I was, for the first few years of school, I really just struggled because I thought I was the dumbest kid in the world. And I felt that. I felt the shame of it. I felt so inferior. You know, it went on for years. And when I third grade, fourth grade, third grade, they got a tutor for me. And this tutor said to me one day, Michael, if you hurry up and get in your work, we'll go out and play catch. I brought a football. And I got through with the work and we went out and played catch. And I'll never forget this dude dropping back and he threw me the ball and I caught it. And he backed up more and he threw it hard. And I caught it. He said, wait a minute. He backed up. He threw it harder than a kid. And I caught it. And he said, dude, you catch like that, you could be special. That's all I remember. That's all I needed. All my life, that's all I heard. You catch like that, you can be special. Now that's combating what I'm telling myself every day. You're the dumbest kid in the world. All of these kids knew everything. Why didn't you know? I would never raise my hand. I didn't know anything, you know. So that changed a lot of things for me. Once that dude threw that ball, and then when the kids all learned I could catch like that, remember we were playing dodgeball back then, where you knock a kid out, and he had to go back. You have to catch a ball to let him come back in. Oh, now they were picking me on their team first, you know. So first, he just told me I could be special. And these same kids that I felt so inferior around now get the PE. They're like, we taking Michael. And that's all. All I know, if I catch everything, I can be special. And that was the drive at playing wide receiver. Every day I thought about that moment right there. You could be special. That's what drove me to try to be special.
Right. So it sounds like you were almost two different people, man. One in class, a kid that was basically hiding, not wanting to be picked to
Right.
answer any questions. But as soon as you got outside, you were the first picked, right? So in one part of your that journey, you're in the classroom hiding because you felt ashamed.
Right.
And then this one tutor or teacher really, when you got outside, because of how good you were in football, these kids are trying to pick you to play sports because you're so athletic. Do you think that guy, number one, do you still know him? Do you remember his name? And number two,
yes,
do
John.
you credit him for changing your life at that moment?
Absolutely, I do. And I know his name. Yes, I kept in touch with him. He died a few years ago. Great dude. I mean, just a great dude. And I so appreciate him. And I always talk about people like this. You know, first of all, let me give love to the teachers, because I did a speech, Robert, a couple years ago at the College Association to coaches. The coaches. I remember starting the speech with, you know, it was around election time. And everybody was talking about the elections and who we're going to pick. I said, it's so amazing how everybody gets so up in arms around this time and get so crazy about politics and who we're going to pick. You know, the truth of the matter is I've never sat in a room with and saw a person in a congratulatory moment, celebratory moment, stand at a podium and say, I would like to thank my politician that helped me get here. You don't ever hear that. All you ever hear is, I would like to thank my teacher. I would like to thank my coach. You see, we go crazy about who we're electing as opposed to understanding the most important position, and that was the title of this speech, the most important position in this country: coach, teacher. Because think about this, their job is to gather, guard, and then guide. You have to gather the kids before those other people or other elements gather them. You have to guard them from those other people in those elements. And then if you're a great teacher, like the teachers that I have run into, that God has put in my life, that I call the miracles on my journey, that teacher has to reach down inside that kid and help pull out their king, guide them to where God has called them to go. It's the most important position in our world, in our country. And I think about, and I thank those coaches and those teachers that have helped me on this journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jeff, my tutor.
That's a good story. You know, I'm thinking, I'm still going back to that moment when you, like, I think for me, it's a traumatic moment to go through as a kid, being in a room with other kids and feeling inferior, especially when the teacher's asking a question and you're the only one that didn't raise your hand. How is that feeling manifested inside of you? Like, how is it, and has it like affected you as growing up as an adult now? And what tools do you use to help yourself get over that, or have you gotten over, or did you get therapy, or how did that affect you?
I carried this for quite a while. Because it was just my lack of knowledge, right? My lack of understanding. And it really made me act out all of my years early in school. I got kicked out of public school in my sophomore year. I said, that's it, we're done. And it was in class, same situation. In class, teacher taught, and I'm falling asleep. I don't want to answer. Somebody says something, and I do something that I should not have done. I've never spoke on it. I've never speak about it. I should have done. They kicked me out, and then I just made a decision. I had a friend of mine. He said, "Man, you should go to St. Thomas and talk to people over here. This is a college prep school." So, Michael, I was a sophomore playing varsity and playing. He said, you have the ability to do something, but the problems you're having in school, you're kicked out, you're not, you need to try to be focused and get focused. So I said, okay, I want to make a decision. I switched out, went to St. Thomas, transferred because I was kicked out of public schools. Now, once they found out I wanted to transfer, they said, no, you can come back. And I said, no, I want to make a decision. I want to go here to try to get better in my education. I was just hanging with the same guys in the neighborhood in the public school, and none of us had any direction. We were just vagabonds, wandering day to day, every day, wondering. But going to St. Thomas, they put a plan in front of me. And I was like, this is different. Every kid around me had a plan because they're college prep school. They knew what they were going to do. They knew what they were planning to do. I was like, this is amazing, man. This is amazing. So and when I went to St. Thomas, I don't even mention the school. The public school said, oh, okay, we'll take them back. We'll let them back in. I said, no, I want to stay at St. Thomas. Then they took me to court. I'll never forget this. The pain regurgitated. Because in court, I've never spoke of this, but in court, they said, we believe he got illegally recruited because my defense was, I'm making this decision to better my education, which I really needed to. They said, we believe he's just making the decision to play sports. So the court, after the school took me to court, the court ruled, if you really made the decision to get better in your education, you can stay at St. Thomas, but you cannot play sports. Or you can return back to the public school and you can play sports for a full calendar year. For a guy growing up in the ghetto, and I'm not playing sports, and I have this block with school, what do you think is going to happen? You see what I'm saying? It's going to put me right back in a tough situation. So, man, I struggled with that. And I remember my dad was sick at this time. He had cancer, and he was like, what are you going to do? It's your decision. I said, well, I'm going to stay at St. Thomas because it's just, I had no chance at the other school. So I'm going to stay at St. Thomas. And Robert, it was the hardest thing in the world for me because, like I told you, it was all I had was the game, and they took it. And I had to study. I said, couldn't play. I can only study school. I cried every week. When they were playing football, I would go in the bathroom and cry, or playing basketball, I'm crying. And my other teacher, Miss Jones, she would grab me. She caught me crying one day, and she said, baby, oh, man, and she passed last year. She said, baby, he did this to hurt you. But
it's all right, man. We
she
all
said,
go ahead.
She said, baby, we need this time together. She said, I know it hurts, but we need this time to catch you up academically. And so while they were playing, we would go study. We would go practice reading and stuff like that just to help me get my mind off of it, that I wasn't able to go on the field. And you got to know me coming up, I'm 15 to 17 kids. I mean, I didn't know anything in school, and then feeling inferior. I remember going to school, man. Oh my God, my hair was nappy, and I mean, ladies, she's like, God, we had a janitor. Her name was Miss Doris. I was in third, fourth grade, and she was a black lady, nice lady, and she was just trying to help me out. She would say to me, "Big son, you smell like piss." Literally, like you smell like, because I was so nervous about school, I was wetting the bed the night before. Never happened on the weekend. Would never happen on the weekend. I'm fine.
Right.
But every day I had to go to school, I would always wet in the bed. I was just so nervous about it, and she would, so when I made that decision, I'm staying at St. Thomas, I'm catching up. And I spent so much time with Miss Jones, catching me up. I didn't play any my junior year. Then my senior year comes, and 3 days before the first game, my dad passed, and so my dad has never seen me play football. He has never seen me play football because, being 15, 17 kids, he worked all those weekdays I was playing. So and I never played on a weekend, and he left before I got to college and played on weekends. So yeah, that was difficult. But I look back now and I understand more because it wasn't that I was so dumb. It was I didn't have the exposure. Mm-hmm. Like ultimately, I graduated from the University of Miami and with the BMO, Business Management Organization degree, and a minor in communications. And I did it and left after my junior year.
Right.
After my junior year of eligibility. I look back now and Charles Haley does such a great job. We just did his event. It's called Tackle Tomorrow. And he raises all this money and help kids reading and all of those things. Kids like me, kids like him that felt that inferior, felt that, And I say to Charles, I'm so proud of you because what you've done is take your greatest pain and you make it your greatest promise. You didn't just sit in that hurt. You said, I want to make sure other people don't feel this hurt. I know now that it wasn't me being dumb. I didn't get exposed to preschool like all of those other kids had preschool. We didn't have preschool. We just had somebody sitting there watching us and nobody's school teaching us, you go play, run with the little. So it was just, but it made me feel so small, made me feel so small. And that's how I had to get over my anxieties about school. You can learn. You can study. You've been telling yourself this for so long. The reality is those kids had a head start. And that's why. And I think, there are a lot of kids come from backgrounds like where I came from. You have to understand that some people are going to have opportunities that maybe you didn't have. once you get the exposure is critical to any process for people. Once you get the exposure and you get an opportunity, yeah, you'll learn you can do those things too.
That's awesome, man. Man, I'm sure, Mike, I say to a lot of different athletes that I'm around, that you're around, great athletes, I after speaking to a lot of them, we all have been through something traumatic. All of us, there's moments in our lives, that we've been through very traumatic events. And then we've had some, like, as you mentioned, some teacher or coach,
Right.
someone that was just so impactful in helping us through that traumatic moment. And some of us are lucky to get a chance later on in life to thank them. Some of us don't have the opportunity to thank them because we've lost maybe communication or they passed away. But it just goes to show, as you mentioned, man, the teachers and coaches are the real heroes
Right. Right. Right.
of our generation, man. And they
Right.
continue to be heroes. When people ask me about all of my success in football, I always start out with my little league coaches. I would not be who I am if it wasn't for little league coaches putting me in that bull in the ring and wouldn't let me out until I showed you some freaking different parts. Like, they nah, Bailey, get back in there. Put that helmet back on. Yeah.
You crying over there. I don't want to do it no more.
Yeah,
Get back in there. Get back in there. That is funny. That is so true. It's funny you say that, because honestly, I saw someone, and I sent it to my people, because I was going to talk about it later on my YouTube channel or something. Like, I saw a mom, and she was spanking this kid. And it was going around. He talked about she hit him 22 times. And they were talking about, it's hard to watch. It's just child abuse. I was like, I got abused all my life. They were whooping me. But back then, the family, they would whoop anybody in the neighborhood. Trust me. When we grew up, it was, if you caught a group of the kids doing things wrong, anybody can whoop you in the whole neighborhood. And nobody got upset. You couldn't do that now. You could not do that now. So you had a whole neighborhood governing the kids, you know what I mean, to help us. So yeah, that was a little different then, man. But my mom and dad will put it on you, boy. I'm talking about put it on you. Put it on you.
How's these experiences that you had, how's that helped you as a father, as a man and as an adult, all these different experiences, how's it helped you pass that? What do you teach the younger kids? What do you teach your kid? What have you learned from the trauma that you've been through and the experiences that made you the father you are today?
And first of all, Robert, things really do. And wait, Buck and Bailey and Buck. I love that combination. How y'all tied that down. Going to Bailey Buck, B&Bs, But all of our experience kind of make us who we are, I used to be mad at God. Like, man, why I have to have 16 brothers and sisters, man? I got nothing. We had nothing, Kid down the street was the only kid. I was like, why couldn't I be the only kid? It looked like he had everything,
Right.
But the Bible talks about God will never put you in any place that he doesn't prepare you for. I look back and think about, I won championships on every level. On every level. And you know why? Because of that big family. I understood teamwork long before I got on any team, because we had nothing. I got my butt whooped every day by my sisters, because I came home, I ate the cereal after school, because I was a kid running around. What are you doing? We don't have that food. That was for breakfast in the morning, and they would whoop you. But I got to the place where I just said, hey, I need the food, I'll take the whooping. You know what I mean? Whatever. Well, I'm the kid, I'm growing up, right? And they literally whoop my tail all the time. And
But you still ain't got the food.
I would get the food, and hey, I'm sitting here, and Lisa come in the house, I'm eating the cereal. I start eating fast because I know she finna whip me up, boy. And then I complain. Then when I'm gonna grow up one day, I'm gonna be in the NFL. I ain't even taking y'all beating me up. And all that did happen, So, they had to play their role. That was their role in it, So it's just so funny when I think about the whole process, and then look back on it and say, you know, we got kids today and mental health today. And unfortunately, I hear kids all the time talk about suicide, and it blows my mind here today. Because, back then you were not even able to acknowledge that. I never thought about that. You were not able to acknowledge it, and now they do. And I love that kids are opening up. I'd rather you tell me you have these thoughts than pretend to be strong like we had to be and find out something later. Oh man, I wish I would have known. You know what I mean? I wish I would have known. So the times are different. And you know what? And there's so many more people that has an end to the kids now. See, we don't talk about that. We always talk about, well, these kids ain't as tough as we used to be. We did this, we did that. But we don't talk about there's so many more people that have an opportunity to enter the gates of the kids, the 5 gates that guard our spirit, the ear gate, eye gate, nose gate, mouth gate, touch gate. Every day, you're dealing with it. Somebody on the social media, people that before it was only your family or that neighborhood that raised you. Right. Now it's the world that's raising you. And that's why we're having some of the issues we're having with young people, because it's the world that's raising them and not just that small group that raised a lot of people that are older.
Well, Misty, what's your thoughts on the mental aspect of what Mike's been through and athletes? I think it's played a part to your success. I'm curious on what Misty's thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have paths. And Michael, as I'm listening to your story, I'm like, wow, somebody poured into you by saying that one thing to you about the football, and then the teacher about, okay, we're going to use this year. Give me this year to get you caught back up. And I think it speaks to the importance of people pouring into one another and the importance of pouring into our young people and our, adults as well. But I think especially young people. And not for nothing, but I've seen you on those sidelines, Michael, and it seems like you're really pouring into other people. And when Robert was sharing, how you were like, no, you're going to be a part of this team as a freshman. To me, like, it kind of all comes from what that meant for you. And like you said with your friend, let your pain lead you to, I say your purpose, used another word I can't remember right now, but something like that. So I think there's really something telling to that, because you could easily have been like, nah, this person doesn't know what they're talking about and whatever with this teacher, and gone a completely different path, right? But you took that to heart and then use it in your life, but now it is affecting you in all areas of your life, as a father, as on the sidelines, and other areas of your life, I'm sure. So I think that's super cool.
Yeah, and you guys asked, because what you're saying here is even translating that with my kids, going from what I go through, and then I go out. I talk all the time about it. Robert, you asked me about what do I tell young kids. I craft speeches for corporations, organizations, and my job then is I go in and maybe I'm speaking for 40 minutes, but I'm trying to stain your brain, give you something that you'll have to walk out over the next 40 years, Right. So I come up with things and I title certain things. Like I'll write a speech like how to see your way to a championship. And then I would tell people, when I say this, I'm not talking about the divine apparatuses God has given us our eye gate, I'm going to give you 6 C's. 6 C's. If you start your day thinking on these 6 C's, you'll end up as a champion.